The reservation was for 7 p.m. at Marcello's, the most exclusive Italian restaurant in downtown. I arrived 15 minutes early, wearing a simple black dress I'd bought 3 years ago. Nothing flashy. Nothing that would draw attention. My family was already seated when I walked in. Dad at the head of the table, Mom to his right, my brother Marcus and his wife Jennifer across from my sister Amanda and her husband Todd. The only empty seat was at the far end, closest to the kitchen doors. "Oh, you actually came," Marcus said, not bothering to look up from his phone. "I told Mom you'd probably skip it." "Of course she came," Jennifer added with a thin smile. "Free food." I slid into my seat and placed a small wrapped box on the table. Dad's birthday gift. I'd spent 3 weeks finding the perfect vintage watch from 1965, the year he was born. It had cost me $8,000. "What's that?" Amanda asked, eyeing the small package. "A keychain." "It's Dad's gift," I said quietly. Marcus finally looked up, his eyes scanning me from head to toe. "Let me guess. Something from the clearance section at Target." Everyone laughed. Even Dad chuckled a little. "Marcus, be nice," Mom said, though her tone suggested she didn't really mean it. "I'm sure whatever it is, it's thoughtful." "Thoughtful doesn't pay bills," Marcus replied, leaning back in his chair. "Speaking of which, are you still doing that receptionist thing?" "I work in hospitality management," I corrected gently. Right. Hospitality management." He made air quotes with his fingers. "That's what we're calling it now?" Jennifer touched his arm. "Honey, don't be mean. Some people are just late bloomers." "Late bloomers?" Amanda snorted. "She's 32, Jen. If you haven't bloomed by now, you're basically a weed." More laughter. I folded my hands in my lap and said nothing. The waiter appeared with menus. He caught my eye and gave me a subtle nod, which I returned with an even more subtle shake of my head. "Not yet." "So, Dad," Marcus said, opening his menu, "Jennifer and I have been looking at that lake house property. The one we showed you last month. We're thinking of making an offer." "That's wonderful, son," Dad beamed. "How much are they asking?" $3.2 million. But I think we can negotiate down to 2.8. Mom gasped with delight. "Marcus, that's incredible. Our son, the real estate mogul." "Well, someone in this family had to make something of themselves," Marcus said, glancing at me. "Right, Emma?" I took a sip of water. "The lake house sounds lovely." "You should see it," Jennifer gushed. 6 bedrooms, private dock, wine cellar. "Of course, you probably can't imagine living in a place like that." "No," I said softly. "I probably can't." Amanda leaned forward. "Emma, I don't mean to pry, but are you still living in that studio apartment downtown? The one above the dry cleaners?" "I moved actually," I replied. "Oh, thank God," Mom said. "That neighborhood was so unsafe." "Where are you now?" "Still downtown." Marcus rolled his eyes. "Let me guess. Another studio? Maybe this one has a window." "It has several windows," I said. The waiter returned to take our orders. Everyone ordered the most expensive items on the menu. Dry-aged steaks, lobster tail, the premium wine pairing. When he got to me, I ordered a simple pasta dish. "Really, Emma?" Amanda said. "Just pasta? This is Dad's 60th birthday." "The pasta here is excellent," I said. "It's $38 for pasta," Jennifer pointed out. "You could get the same thing at Olive Garden for $12. "But we're not at Olive Garden," I replied calmly. Marcus laughed. "Yeah, because Emma could never afford a place like this on her own. Thank God Dad's paying tonight." Actually, I thought to myself Dad wasn't paying. But they didn't need to know that yet. The first course arrived. The conversation shifted to Marcus's latest real estate deal, Amanda's upcoming vacation to the Maldives, and Dad's retirement plans. I ate quietly, responding when spoken to, mostly ignored otherwise. "So Emma," Todd finally addressed me, "what did you get Dad for his birthday? I'm curious now." All eyes turned to the small wrapped box. "Yeah, let's see it," Marcus said, grinning. "I'm betting it's a tie." "It's always a tie with you." "Marcus got Dad a golf membership at Pebble Beach," Jennifer announced proudly. $50,000 for the year. "And we got him the Omega Seamaster he's been wanting," Amanda added. "The platinum one." I pushed the small box across the table to Dad. "Happy birthday, Dad." He unwrapped it slowly while everyone watched. When he opened the velvet box and saw the vintage watch, his expression shifted. For just a moment, something like genuine emotion crossed his face. "It's a 1965 Patek Philippe," I said quietly. "The same model Grandpa wore in the wedding photo on your desk." Dad stared at the watch. "Emma, this is probably a fake," Marcus interrupted. "No offense, but there's no way you could afford a real Patek Philippe." "It's real," I said. "There's a certificate of authenticity in the box." Marcus grabbed the box and examined the papers. His smile faltered slightly. "Well, even if it's real, it's probably worth what, $1,000? 2,000 tops." "It's worth about 8,000, I said. "But I didn't give it to him because of its value." $8,000? Mom's voice rose. "Emma, where did you get that kind of money?" "I saved it," I replied simply. "From your receptionist's salary?" Amanda looked skeptical. "That would take you years." "Hospitality management salary," I corrected. "And yes, it took a while." Jennifer whispered something to Marcus, who nodded. They were doing that thing they always did, making assumptions about my life, my choices, my apparent failures. "You know what I think?" Marcus said, setting down his wine glass. "I think you're living beyond your means, Emma. 8,000 on a watch when you probably can't even afford a decent car? That's just irresponsible." "I have a car," I said. "What do you drive?" Todd asked. "I've never seen you in anything but Ubers." "I don't like to drive in the city," I explained. "Parking is difficult." Translation: "She takes the bus," Amanda stage whispered. The main courses arrived. My pasta looked perfect, delicate ribbons of fresh tagliatelle with truffle oil. I twirled some on my fork and took a bite, savoring the taste while my family continued their conversation around me. "You know what, Emma?" Marcus said suddenly. "I'm going to give you some advice. Brother to sister. Stop trying to keep up with us. Stop pretending you can afford things like $8,000 watches. Just accept your situation and live within your means." "That's actually good advice, honey," Jennifer agreed. "There's no shame in being average." "Exactly," Mom chimed in. "Emma, we love you just the way you are. You don't need to impress us." "I'm not trying to impress anyone," I said, meeting her eyes. "Could have fooled me," Marcus muttered. "Showing up here at Marcello's of all places acting like you belong." That's when something inside me shifted. I'd been patient for so long. 5 years of building my empire in silence. 5 years of letting them assume, judge, and dismiss me. 5 years of playing the role of the family disappointment. I was done. I set down my fork and looked at Marcus. "What do you mean, acting like I belong?" He shrugged. "Come on, Emma. Look around. This place is for successful people. CEOs, entrepreneurs, old money. Not receptionists. Hospitality managers." I corrected one last time. "Whatever you want to call it, you're out of your league here." That's when I saw him approaching. Michael, the general manager. He'd been watching from near the kitchen, waiting for my signal. I'd told him to wait until dessert, but this seemed like the right moment. "Excuse me," Michael said, arriving at our table with his usual professional grace. "I'm sorry to interrupt your dinner. Is there a problem?" Dad asked. "No problem at all, sir. I just needed to speak with Ms. Anderson for a moment." He turned to me. "Ms. Anderson, should I prepare your private office for after-dinner drinks? Or will you be dining with your family for the remainder of the evening?" The table went silent. Complete, absolute silence. I could see Marcus's brain trying to process what he'd just heard. Amanda's fork was frozen halfway to her mouth. Jennifer looked confused. Mom's eyes darted between me and Michael. "I think I'll stay with my family, Michael," I said calmly. "But thank you for checking." "Of course. And should I mention that the DeLuca party has confirmed for Saturday? They're requesting your presence, naturally. Tell them I'll be there." "Excellent. Also, the architectural plans for the expansion are ready for your review. Mr. Patterson said to remind you about the zoning meeting on Thursday." "I'll be there," I confirmed. Michael nodded and turned to the table. "Please, everyone, enjoy your meals. And happy birthday, sir," he said to Dad before walking away. The silence continued for another 10 seconds. "What?" Marcus finally managed. "What was that?" I took a sip of my water. "That was Michael, the general manager." "Why did he call you Ms. Anderson like that?" Jennifer asked. "Why was he talking to you about offices and expansion plans? I dabbed my mouth with my napkin. Because I own this restaurant. Amanda laughed nervously. You what? I own Marcello's, I said clearly. I've owned it for 3 years. That's impossible, Marcus said flatly. This restaurant is worth millions. 8.3 million actually, I corrected. That's what I paid for it in 2021. Mom's face had gone pale. Emma, what are you talking about? I'm talking about my business, Mom. Marcello's is one of 12 restaurants I own in this city. 12 restaurants. Dad spoke for the first time in minutes. 12 restaurants, 2 hotels and a catering company, I confirmed. That's the hospitality management work I do. I manage my own hospitality empire. Marcus shook his head. No, you're making this up. Why would I make it up? Because you're embarrassed, he insisted. You're embarrassed that you're a failure, so you're creating some fantasy where you're successful. I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone. I opened my banking app and turned the screen toward him. This is my business account. Current balance, $23.7 million. He stared at the screen. His face went from red to white. And this, I swiped to another screen, is my personal investment portfolio. Current value, $68 million. That has to be fake, Jennifer whispered. It's not fake, I said, putting my phone away. I've spent the last 8 years building a restaurant empire. I started with a food truck when I was 24. Sold it for a profit. Bought a small cafe. Sold that for a bigger profit. Bought my first restaurant at 26. And I kept going. Why didn't you tell us? Mom asked, her voice barely audible. Would you have believed me? I asked simply. Or would you have done exactly what Marcus is doing right now? Assume I was lying? No one answered. When I bought this restaurant, I continued, it was failing. The previous owner had run it into the ground. I rebuilt it from scratch. New menu, new staff, new management structure. Within a year it was profitable. Within 2 years, it was the highest-rated Italian restaurant in the city. The article in Food and Wine, Dad said suddenly, his eyes widening. Last year. About the mysterious restaurateur who was revolutionizing the city's dining scene. That was you. That was me. But they never showed your face, Amanda said. They only mentioned a first name. I prefer to keep a low profile, I explained. It's easier to do business when people aren't constantly recognizing you. When they're not making assumptions about you based on your appearance or your age or your family background. Marcus was still shaking his head. I don't understand. If you have all this money, why do you dress like that? Why do you live in that studio apartment? I don't live in a studio apartment, I said. I haven't for 2 years. I live in the penthouse on Madison Avenue. The one with the rooftop garden. Jennifer gasped. That building? The new luxury one? Those penthouses start at 15 million. Mine was 18, I confirmed. As for my clothes, I dress comfortably. I don't need designer labels to prove my worth. The waiter appeared with the check, placing it discreetly near Dad's plate out of habit. I'll take that, I said, reaching for it. Emma, you don't have to, Dad started. Dad, I own the restaurant. There's no check. Dinner is on me. Happy birthday. I stood up from the table. Michael will bring out Dad's cake in a few minutes. It's a chocolate truffle cake from Dominique Ansel. I know it's your favorite, Dad. I had it flown in this morning. Emma, wait, Mom said, standing up too. We need to talk about this. We can talk, I agreed. But right now I think you all need some time to process. Enjoy the cake. Enjoy the rest of your evening. You're leaving? Amanda asked, looking genuinely shocked. I have a video call with investors in Singapore in an hour, I explained. We're discussing the purchase of a hotel chain in Southeast Asia. Marcus finally found his voice again. So all those times we gave you advice about your career, all those times we told you to be realistic about your life. I listened politely, I said simply. Because you're my family and I love you. But I didn't need the advice. I've been doing just fine on my own. I picked up my purse and turned to Dad. I hope you like the watch, Dad. Grandpa wore his every day for 40 years. I thought you might do the same. Dad looked at the watch in the box, then at me, then back at the watch. Emma, I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything tonight, I told him gently. Just enjoy your birthday. I walked toward the exit, nodding at the staff as I passed. I could hear my family's voices rising behind me, a mixture of shock and confusion and something that might have been shame. Michael caught up with me at the door. That went well, he said with a slight smile. Did it? I asked. They needed to know, he said. You can't keep yourself small forever just to make other people comfortable. Maybe not, I agreed. But it's going to make family dinners very interesting from now on. I've already scheduled the private dining room for next month, Michael said. Your mother called yesterday to book it. She wanted to surprise you. I smiled. She doesn't know yet that I own the restaurant. She does now, Michael pointed out. She does now, I agreed. I stepped out into the cool evening air. My driver was already waiting at the curb. Behind me, through the restaurant windows, I could see my family still sitting at the table, their faces a mixture of shock and wonder and confusion. For the first time in years they were seeing me clearly. Not the failure they'd assumed I was. Not the disappointment they'd pitted. Just me, Emma Anderson, owner of 12 restaurants, builder of an empire. And their daughter. Maybe, I thought as I slid into the back seat, they'd start asking better questions now. Or maybe they'd keep making assumptions. Either way, I'd said what needed to be said. And Dad had his watch.